Hello everyone and welcome back to NPC Dungeon. Since the day this video is being released is Saturday, that must mean I have a story, and as promised, it is the second story of a character that I played not too long ago named Screech. He is a Kenku detective, and I had a lot of fun playing him, so I hope you have as much fun listening. Real quick before we begin, I want to say that I have made yet another change to my short videos. I have been adding more animation to them lately, and by more I mean any at all, and I plan to keep adding more as time goes on, so keep an eye out for that. But with that out of the way, let's begin with the story. So what happened? Well, let's start with a little bit of recap. Screech, along with his bodyguard, a turtle named Wu, received a letter from none other than the Empress herself to meet her in person for a very special quest. They were met on the way by a bard named Absi, who had received a similar summons. They arrived at the arena where the Empress offered to meet them and receive their orders. They are to travel by a boat that she had already secured passage for them on to a nearby city and rescue the daughter of an important political figure there. However, when they got to the boat, after being attacked by pirates who Absi was able to talk down, Screech did some digging and managed to find a barrel full of crystals that he found all too familiar. These were the diabolical components of unethical experiments on undeath being conducted by the cult that ran the orphanage that took him in as a child, the very same group that he had to escape from so many years ago. And this is where we begin. After interrogating the captain, stealing his pistol, and writing out the rest of the journey in relative peace, the boat finally reached its destination and the group was able to leave, but Screech hadn't forgotten about the crystals yet. He watched carefully as the wagons were loaded up with barrels and wheeled away. He knew he had to stay true to his mission, but this could be his one chance. Without so much as a blink to Absi or Wu, he hopped onto one of the wagons, peered inside, seeing no one, and picked the lock before slipping in. Absi and Wu tried to keep up, but weren't fast enough to run alongside the whole wagon, so Wu laid down, and they kind of used his shell to surf down the streets, kind of Super Mario style. Meanwhile, Screech set a tripwire and a bell in the back of the wagon so he'd be alerted if anyone else tried his same trick and tried to get into the wagon like him. And it wasn't long before the wagon stopped. Someone strolled up beside him, and a guard apparently, to begin a regular search, a regular inspection, but Screech couldn't have that. Before they got to the wagon, he slipped out back, crawled underneath it, and hung onto the bottom. Screech listened carefully to their voices, and soon the guard announced that he'd be back shortly, and would begin the inspection then. But Screech had other plans. He called out with the guard's voice, "Actually, you're good to go, no inspection needed." The driver shrugged and grabbed the reins as Absi and Wu caught up. Screech expected them to be upset or angry, but was surprised to see their excitement on their faces from their slide down the street. But soon everyone's face grew dark as the wagon entered a tunnel, hidden into one of the walls. They waited in silence until the entire wagon burst into flames and the party had to escape before they would be forced to share the now dead driver's fate. They had to continue their journey on foot, so they traveled deeper in the tunnel and hid from the hooded, cloaked figures as they did, figures that Screech recognized. Wu and Absi tried to find cloaks in their size to disguise with, but were out of luck. Eventually, they entered into a wide open room, an empty room, with a balcony just visible high overhead. Another flash of fire tore through above them and shone in a doorway to the right, but they had no time to search as a figure came tumbling down and landed at their feet, dead. Wu had apparently saved one of the crystals from the crash and realized that if Screech was right, this could bring the men back. Against Screech's protests, he tried before realizing that he didn't know how to use it, so he just kind of threw it at the man, and against all odds it worked. His limbs corrected themselves and he stood upright, but it wasn't long until Screech ran over to the man. He aimed the pistol that he had stolen from the captain at the individual and started his interrogation. Wu and Absi were appalled, and though it took some convincing, they were eventually able to convince Screech to let him go. But no sooner had they done this than did a third flash of fire brighten the room from the hall to the right. Screech looked over and saw a sight that he'd hoped to never see again, the woman who raised him, the leader of the cult that took him in. But something was wrong. She was scorched and in pain. He rushed over, the only word coming to his mind being a choked up why. Sure, to his knowledge, she had done horrible things, but she was still his mother, or at least the closest thing he ever had to one. She looked back up at him, her mind clearly fading. "We aren't in control," she said. "I don't think we ever were." And that's where I'm going to end this story. It definitely twisted and turned more than a little bit there, but I hope you still liked it, and I hope you liked the vague ending that I kind of ended off on as well. Be sure to check out this week's other video where I talk about splitting the party and how to deal with it as DM, and come back next Friday where I talk a little bit about social encounters and how I recommend going about them. Also, come back next Saturday where I'll get back to stories from my current campaign and tell the story of an unexpected bit of combat that ended in a very, very funny way. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to check out the two videos that are about to show up on your screen, and until next time, let's learn something.